our podcast is on your journey in music and how you got to where you are now.
Sweet. Where do we begin?
Well, let's begin with where were you born and raised?
I was born in Boca Raton, Florida. Um, back in the early '90s, and I've been. This is my primary post, and from while I've been traveling and doing whatever it is that I need to do, especially pre 2020 shitstorm year, but
Sure. Right
but
on. So South Florida, is that what you said?
yeah, South Florida.
Very cool. And tell me a little bit about that. Or is there a big music scene there? How'd you get into music?
So I got into music just basically I had always wanted to do this,
Mm-hmm.
to be a performer, to be, a person on a stage necessarily. But it all just came organically. I started with musical theater, classical training, and
Wow.
then from there I started doing excuse me.
Bless you.
There are cats in this house. I'm not used to one of them. One of them has like has like a really fluffy coat. Um, so if I sneeze any more throughout this interview, just to bear with me and understand that
Oh, no
there's a
worries.
cat running around here spreading her dandruff.
Life happens, especially under these circumstances, right?
Yeah. So, but I started just doing local performances at restaurants, lounges, and I started building up a following doing that. But all the while, I had always this deep rooted interest in songwriting and the process of developing a song from an embryonic stage to full form. Sort of, I compare it to how like a baby is made. You have that twinkle in your eye, that idea, and then just the whole songwriting process was always an interest for me. So in my teens, I started working with producers, and then like producer after producer after producer, and then every person just was a doorway to another.
Hmm.
And now with the people that I've had the pleasure of working with, I've now had 5 top 10 hits on the Billboard Dance Chart,
Hmm.
and throughout the course of 4 years, that's been the the traction that has really set me up for what's to come and what's next. And now I've written during shutdown, I wrote more than a handful of songs virtually and remotely, and even starting back in July when things started slowly opening back up, and that's when my mojo was initiated back, and I was in Vegas, Atlanta, doing performances, collaborations, and now it's just a matter of continuing that forward.
Hmm. Sure, sure, sure. Wow. So I want to go back quite a bit here. Were talking about performing in restaurants and different like lounges and clubs, or is that just vocal? Were you just singing, or did you play an instrument? Did you play piano and sing? Like, how did the performance aspect kind of start for you?
It was me with a banjo and a triangle. No, just kidding.
Oh, you never know these days. It could have
You
been that.
never know these days. It's like what's next? What's next on the shock value menus? But I performed with primarily tracks. It was just me and tracks and my instrument, my voice.
The voice,
And I
cool.
was doing, and being that I'm from Boca Raton, Florida, I don't know if you're familiar with the people and what the people climate down here is that
Mm-mm.
it's predominantly retirees who just want to enjoy the good life, and
Okay.
and they love, and they bring their passion for Frank Sinatra, the good American songbook. They love the good jazz standards wherever they want to dine or drink at. So I grew my repertoire, and including Frank Sinatra, Billie Holiday, you know, all those nice little singers
Singer
and
songwriter stuff. Yeah.
singer songwriters and sort of like small band, big band, you know. But being classically trained, I also brought a lot of that, a lot of Andrea Bocelli and you know, Sarah Brightman sort of numbers into my act, and being that there are a lot of, you know, high end Italian restaurants down here that I was performing at, that was warmly welcomed.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're classically trained. Like, were you taking
Yeah.
vocal lessons at a very, very early age?
Oh yeah. Starting at 8 years old, I started with a professional German opera singer as my coach, and
Wow.
you know, this is a fact that is growing about me, that is, you know, being more known as I go throughout my journey. But I was born tone deaf. I couldn't carry a tune. Like my when I
Wow.
like the confidence was there, but like when someone has confidence and they think that they can sing but they really can't, it's just it's that wrong kind of spectacle.
Mhm.
You know?
Sure, sure. Well, I mean, if you say you're tone deaf, I mean, you're living proof that anybody can sing, right? If they really,
Yeah.
really want to work for it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I worked for it. But now it's you know, I can wholeheartedly and you know, sort of happily say that I that I was like steadfast, and that I didn't give up, and
Hmm.
kept my I kept my boots on the ground, and I just persevered,
Sure.
essentially.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. Well, with the jazz performances, it was all covers at that point?
Yeah, it was all covers, and then I would throw in some top 40, because at that point people were asking me to sing Black Eyed Peas, and I was like, I don't really want to sing Black Eyed Peas, but I'll do other top 40 stuff for you, you know, because
Okay.
certain songs just don't fit with your voice,
Right.
and that's okay. That's a totally you know, permissible thing. But yeah, so I just threw in some top 40, and then as I started releasing original material, I would throw that in as well. And even in my live performances currently, people are like, oh my god, do that self control. Even people that I play with, like I was just playing with a good a dear fellow musician of mine. He's a saxophonist, and he, towards the end of the night, you know, that's when people get more loose, because they got, you know,
Hmm.
that liquid courage thrown
Sure.
through their veins, you know, so they really want to just let it out and let loose and tear it up on the dance floor. And he turned to me and he said, I want that self control. Now, I'm not saying that, like, you know, self control is my original, but you catch my drift.
Sure, sure. Of
But
course.
it's like he said, "Oh my God, break the wheel! Like, let's do that." What's that other song? Like, a deeper love? Yeah, let's do that. So people are now requesting my
Your
own
songs.
material, which is wonderful, and coming from the people that have so closely and knitly supported me, that speaks volumes there, actually.
Sure. No, it definitely does. That's really amazing. What was
Yeah.
the first song that you put out on your own or showed to somebody? Do you remember?
Come in.
I was wondering what was the first song that you wrote and then like performed it for somebody?
Oh, so the first song that I wrote was this song called "For You," and
Okay.
it was, oh my God, when I say it's bubblegum, like you can blow the biggest bubble from it. It like it's like a mixture of Hannah Montana and Lizzie McGuire. But
Awesome.
that was when I was 15,
Yeah, I
16.
was gonna say you're probably watching those shows at the time, right?
Yeah, So that's what I was influenced by.
Hmm.
But it, for what it was, speaking nostalgically, because when people always ask me, they're like, oh, like what was like the best or like the worst time for you, and I'm like, none of these times were either bad or good, because you always want to come from the place of living in the present.
Hmm.
And so at that time, that's when that was presently, shiny and good. So but yeah, I just like to make fun of myself.
That's funny. So, well, when did your career go from doing the covers and like the restaurant shows to putting records out and then eventually getting a Billboard, your first Billboard top 50 hit or top 40 hit?
Yeah, so it was a process. I mean, I started songwriting my own original stuff
Hmm.
in my teens, and then every it was like an evolution, and a sort of and it was a development process. I mean, I started
Hmm.
with I always say, like, I started with bubble gum and now I'm minty fresh. um, but everything has just been just a natural and gradual ascension to
Hmm.
to what's currently now, and what's on the horizon.
Sure, sure. Well, like, okay, so what was your first kind of little break that you had?
The first break, well, self control, cherry topping the Sunday was
Hmm.
one of those hallmark moments where that moment in and of itself, there were so many thoughts and takeaways from it, and that it really showed me that I could do this independently without,
Hmm.
I could take myself this far without, super big brother label backing, and without the regret of me, having to sell out because I'm trying to fit a mold or something like that. So I look back at that, and it's just funny because just the song itself, self control, and that I had made it to that point independently.
Hmm.
Both go hand in hand.
Sure. I mean, because that song made top 40, didn't it? Self Control.
Yeah, and
That's
it's not,
huge for an
and it's
independent artist. I
no,
mean,
and it's
wow.
still in top 40 cycle right now.
Yeah, because it's been remixed a bunch of times. So
Yeah,
tell me about this. Like
a
the
lot of
song the
people want
song came
a lot
out
of
when?
people
Like
want a piece of it.
right, I know. It's like the song came out a few years ago, didn't it?
It came well, the song, the Laura Branigan version,
The
or the
original version that you put out.
oh, the original version was back in 2019.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's been out for almost 2 years, and you've
Yeah.
had a ton of people remix it, and then most recently you just had another remix that came out this year, right?
Yes.
Wow. So tell me about that. People just contact you, different DJs that heard it, or how did that start?
Yeah, well, I think that, I the initial thought process in revamping, or not like revamping, or just taking or putting my own signature on the song self control, because I'd always performed that out in my live shows and performances, and
Mhm.
for some reason that song always just felt there there was like a special feeling
Mhm.
in performing that song. So, and when I presented it to Damon, I call him my Billboard wizard producer. I said, I want to redo this song,
Mhm.
and he was like, he just he was like he. It was almost as if he had heard the concept of sliced bread for the first time. Um, so, and then we just we went through with it, and now everyone just wants to, be a part of it, because and I feel that they want to put their own spin on it, because the song itself is it's that bona fide, you know dance song that's just timeless.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. And like when you would play it, did you see like a reaction right away from people? Was it kind of like you knew that was going to be a hit when you were performing it?
Yeah, well, when I performed the original,
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah,
mean,
the original one.
yeah, that just said it for me.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And
then now performing my own version, it's like, whoa.
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Well, the next record you put out was Break the Wheel. That was after Self Control.
Was it? Yeah. Yes, it was.
Okay. And then that was another song that's been remixed a ton of times. Tell me about that song.
Um, that one, Break the Wheel. Are you talking about Break the Wheel?
Yeah, Break the Wheel.
Okay.
That one's also been remixed a lot, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Break.
Yeah.
Yeah, break the wheel. The wheel is the wheel has been broken.
Yeah.
It can't break no mo.
That's funny. Well, how was that song? Like, when did you write it? Tell me about that.
So I wrote that in. This was like, it was obviously pre-COVID, but I wrote it with Kevin Wild, who was a part of the group Bad Royal.
Okay.
Um, they've had a lot of traction and success, and along with two other songwriters, Jaren and Simone, and just that song was inspired by Game of Thrones.
Really?
Yeah, because when that have you did you watch Game of Thrones?
I didn't, but I know it. You know what I mean? Like it's
I'm
just
gonna
been
watch
so
it.
like in pop culture like for so
Yeah,
long that it's like okay, I get it. But I never spent the time to watch it because I don't know why.
it's okay. It's very long. Like the an ex of mine introduced me to it, and basically had to make this whole family tree for me in order for me to get caught up and know what's going on.
Okay.
You're just thrown into it and introduced to so many people, and you're like, okay, who are you?
Oh, you didn't even watch it from the first episode? You had to catch it midway
Oh no,
through?
no, I'm talking about like like straight out of the gate.
Oh,
Like
wow.
the first episode, there's so many people
Oh,
that are
you're like,
that
who
into you.
what's happening?
Yeah, it's like you walking into a party and you're like, hello, 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 hello. Oh, like, hold on, let me go in the bathroom and look up my Facebook and see who the heck
Who
you are.
right, right, right.
So yeah, but going back to the to break the wheel, Daenerys Targaryen, Amelia Clark's character, because her whole cause as a character was to overthrow authority and bureaucracy
Okay.
in the land in Westeros. Yeah. So her whole cause was to break the wheel. And when she said, I want to break the wheel because everything has just been the same old, same old, same old, like power struggle, she was like, I want to break the wheel.
Mhm.
And as soon as I heard that, I said, ding, ding, ding. I was
Write
like,
that down.
oh, let me write it down before someone else does. And when I had the opportunity to work with Kevin Wild and the other songwriters I just mentioned,
Mhm.
I was like, that was a perfect opportunity for me to be like, I want to write a song called Break the Wheel. Let's do it. And we did, and that's how that came to fruition.
Wow, and that's another smash. I mean, you said that one also went on Billboard.
Yes, it did go on BB for
That's
sure.
crazy. So tell me what you said you have 5 records that are top 40?
Well, I had I had 5 top 10 singles on the Billboard Dance Chart
Wow.
in the past 4 years. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
so I've been a busy woman.
Yeah, that's insane. That's so cool. And once you started seeing success on the first couple songs were bigger and bigger, like producers trying to seek you out or major labels, or did you have any of that?
I had a I in the past year or two, I've gone through a whole remodeling with my management team, and
Mhm.
the team that I have currently, the some of the two major uh, players on my team introduced me to Mark Mangold, who's worked with Cher, Michael Bolton,
Wow.
John D. Nicola, who wrote Dirty Dancing. I've had the time of my life. And Ned Cameron, who's worked for Kid Inc. Who else? Who else? Charlie Midnight. I I just wrote Song of Hope with him, and that's going to be released in the coming days.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, and Avalanche I did with Mark Mangold, and So Fly I did with Luigi Lugo Gonzalez, who was also introduced to me through this team. But
Wow.
yeah, I just have I have a lot of stuff that's ready to be unleashed.
That's amazing. So tell me where you were when the world shut down and when COVID hit. What were you up
So
to?
I was moving at the speed of light before all this happened. But the momentum, like I said, it never stopped because I continued my collaborations that I was supposed to be doing on the field. I adapted to virtual and remote, so that kept going. So that was that was wonderful.
That's
Um,
good. Yeah.
yeah, and but it's so interesting because I back this was back in February last year. I was in Los Angeles, and I get a call from my mom, and she says, your dad is really sick right now. Like he's got, like, I don't know what he's got, like a really bad flu. And at that time, no one really knew. Like
Right.
I thought, honestly, I thought coronavirus was a really bad stomach virus mixed with a hangover because of too much beer.
Yeah, I remember seeing that people were talking about that. Like it came from the Corona alcohol or beer or whatever. I'm like, eh.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this?
Right.
Come to find out, it's like this. It's like a whole Walking Dead situation over here.
Sure.
But I'm like, they predicted this.
Right, right.
So and so he went to the hospital because he tripped and fell from being too dizzy, having this flu, and then I flew back. I flew back to Florida to Boca,
Mhm.
and then within a matter of 2 weeks, global
Shut down.
global shutdown, and I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
and I just came from LA, like the
The-
really heavy hitter right now, if you know what I'm
Right. Oh
talking about.
yeah, we're in San Diego, so I totally get it.
Oh, okay, yeah, so you know.
Yeah, it's
You
pretty.
guys you guys are opening up now, which is good.
Yeah, they just announced that actually that
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
finally gonna let everything else or let everything open up again. So that'll be nice.
yeah, so
At
you'll
least to
get to
us,
experience what we've experienced.
we'll get to experience what you guys have been doing for the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, Florida's doing really well.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, they're not opening up full force, but it's opening to a certain extent where you
Yeah,
can.
as long as people can get back to work and doing what they need to do,
Mhm.
financially, and making moves.
Sure, sure.
So
Exactly. So wow. So you were in did you find out that your dad ended up having that? Did he have
I
COVID or you didn't know?
we don't even know, but anyone that got brutally sick this past year, like
You just
probably had
assume.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I was like
Wow.
I was like, it can't be chicken pox, you know?
No, sure, sure.
It's the bat pox, okay?
Well, with that, like, were you so you were working on like a session or something in LA and you went back because everything kind of was getting weird?
Well, I pre all this, I like every month I would be in LA.
Oh,
That was like my second home. Like I was back and forth. It was like Boca to Beverly all the
oh,
time.
oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, Boca to Beverly. That's because that's
That's
where
funny.
I always stay. Um,
Okay, Beverly Hills.
yeah,
Very cool.
I like it there.
Yeah, it's quite nice. Wow. Okay. So, like, well, since then, you said you have a new record coming out.
I do. Song of Hope.
Tell me
It's
about that.
I wrote that with Charlie Midnight, and it was a remote collaboration,
Like a
and
Zoom type thing, like this.
yes, and my vocal engineer that I have down in Fort Lauderdale, he was able to record my vocals and then send them to the producer so that they could implement those into the production. So I was blessed to have that as a resource to facilitate in that aspect. But yeah, we just wanted to at that point, Song of Hope was just that song to be like, yo, we've got this pandemic. Let's just join hands and
Mm-hmm.
find a hopeful and sentimental place so we can all just unify and see the beauty and humanity and be restored. And now with everything else that's gone on, the concept of a song of hope is even greater. So it's actually like snowballed into this song of hope beast.
Sure. That's amazing. Well,
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear it. It's coming out in, you said, the next few days.
Yeah. Yeah, it was postponed because I didn't want to release it during the whole process that we had going on like
A
back
couple weeks
last
ago.
week. Yeah, I was like, if something breaks out, I don't want to look like
Sure.
like the ignorant little person where people are,
Right.
does she know what's going on? And here she's thinking about like
Hope.
Bluebird, like helping her get dressed and stuff. Yeah, no.
That's funny. Well, yeah, I mean, so I know a lot of artists that have had to hold on to stuff, especially with COVID, having records ready to go and then not putting out because if you can't tour, you can't, do all the things that come with that.
And navigate now.
Right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely a different world for
Yeah.
sure. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Kendra. I appreciate it.
Of course.
I,
It was fun.
I have one more question for you before I let you go.
Oh.
I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Okay. So I had recently posted on social media back like last week, but it was a post and it said it was comparing being an artist to the hospitality
Hmm.
industry, and that you need to treat yourself as a restaurant, as an establishment, and as a venue. Um, you can have the most excellent food, the most excellent ambiance. It can be the most lavish restaurant ever, but if your service is inattentive and not friendly and not and proactively engaging,
Hmm.
like your client, like those, you're not going to have returning customers. But if you have like good food or even great food with a good ambiance or a great ambiance, but your service was outstanding and they made you feel some kind of way and felt welcomed, your clientele will definitely and surely return. And that's my advice to up and coming artists, even myself, like, because I hold myself accountable to this, and that you always want to stay humble, and and we all, and I'm saying we because it's, it's significant, but being an artist, you always want to be engaging and friendly and attentive with your fans as much as possible. Because I mean, even for me, like, I've stopped following certain people because of how when I met them, it wasn't a pleasant experience. But the ones that I met and I could feel their energy, and they were good people, I still follow them. And it's the same concept that needs to be implemented and taken into account for that. Bringing it backward.